All right, my final topic is referring to Battlefield 1, which is a really dumb name, just to start off with. I
I
know
don't
it's
know
set
why.
in World War One, but what happens when you want to make another one?
Mm-hmm.
You make Battlefield 2? Because you've already made Battlefield 2.
1.5?
You've already made Battlefield 1, too.
Battlefield 1 Part 2?
Right. That's like Nintendo naming everything the new. What happens when you make a new?
The
You have
latest.
the new 3DS. Okay. What about the new 3DS?
I would call it the Nexus. Nintendo
I've always
Nexus.
I've always thought
Oof.
if I was making a product about video games, something that like my grandparents do not understand,
Mm-hmm.
I need to make it marketable to where if my grandma walked into a store and said I need this, the clerk and her would be on the same page. If a
Mm.
grandma walked in and said I need the new Nintendo 3DS, oh dude,
Do you want the one that's like $40 and the one that's
right?
like 90?
Oh, there's one that's 80. Yeah, I'll absolutely take that. Grandma, what is this?
It's literally a brick with a pen in it. It's not even
That's
a
what I
gaming
played. But
console.
that's a whole new topic. That's not
Yeah.
relevant to what I'm talking about. Anyways, if you didn't know, Battlefield 1 is set in World War One, which is really cool that they're kind of going away from the current trend of the modern slash pseudo futuristic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and they're taking it back to World War One, which you can argue is kind of the precursor to warfare as we know it, because World War Two really set like this is how warfare is fought,
Mm-hmm.
and World War One kind of laid the groundwork for that.
Right.
If that's a good or bad thing, it's a fact. That's how
Yeah.
it is.
Unfortunately.
Right. So World War One, as we know, that was just a war of alliances. Really, it was this country declared war on this country, and because this country was allied with this country, that country
Got
declared
pulled
war on
into
that
that.
country.
Yeah.
All this stuff. Eventually, America got pulled in, not necessarily because of any direct attack. I mean, you had the Zimmerman telegram in Mexico, and you had the Lusitania getting sunk, but there was never a Pearl Harbor of World War One. So America did get involved, but didn't have nearly as large of a role as the European countries. With that said, France is DLC. France is DLC
And they
in
were
Battlefield 1.
on the ground. They were in the
Here's
trenches.
here's
the entire
if you Google when did France enter World War One, you you get a little graph. So June 28th is when Franz Ferdinand was assassinated by I can't remember the dude's name. It was with the Black Hand Society, I'm pretty sure, which reminds me of the Dark Brotherhood from Skyrim.
That's really intense. Like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine being
Yeah.
really a part of a secret society.
Yeah.
Because I'd feel like, well, guys, we should start a Facebook group. This is really
Right.
intense.
So that was June 28th, 1914. And the assassinator was from Serbia. Franz Ferdinand was from Austria. So on the same day, Austria declares war on Serbia. August 1st, Germany declares war on Russia. August 3rd, Germany declares war on France. And on the same day, France declares war on Germany. So within a week of Franz Ferdinand's assassination, France is in the war. And they're in the war until it ends. So they were basically there from the very start. So let's just say this. Let's say we're making a game about the Revolutionary War, all right, which was the fight for American independence, which had the British versus
America.
the American, but the French and the natives were also involved. So let's say we had a game about the Revolutionary War with the British, the natives, and the French, and America was DLC. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, DICE kind of has a legitimate reason. They say for Battlefield 1, and they've been really emphasizing the single player experience in this. Battlefield 1, DICE seeks to focus on the little known stories of the Great War to take players where they do not expect. He added that, of course, the studio does not ignore the importance of the French army in the war, and players will meet them in the game's campaign. To truly honor the French army in multiplayer, and once again to show a side that we're not used to seeing, we have decided to dedicate an entire premium Daniel, premium
Premium you're
add-on, premium add-on to them with a special treatment after the launch of the game. So take that with a grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen.
The grainiest of all salts, yes.
That's if DICE's track record keeps up, or just modern first-person shooters keeps up, that's going to be 1 or 2 hours of single player and a new map or two, and maybe a new gun.
So here's my problem with that. It's funny because DICE was saying that they want their multiplayer to not be authentic to World War One. That's why you have so many automatic weapons and things like that. Like, they said they wanted to create a more fun and engaging multiplayer experience, but to do that, they're willing to give away the suspension of, oh, we're in the trenches of World War One.
Well, I mean, so that's the thing with the Revolutionary War, Civil War, War of 1812, blah 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 blah. Everything until World War II, if you're doing it realistically, really does not cater to video games.
Mm-hmm.
World War One was fought in the trenches, and a 10-hour campaign of you maybe being literally in a trench the entire time. That does not sound fun to anyone.
It doesn't, but it's like, how are you going to say that, oh, we're going to give France the treatment they deserve in our less realistic interpretation of these events in multiplayer? That's where I'm just kind of like, well, that shouldn't be what's coming first.
I think what they're focusing on is just making sure that the history is authentic.
Mm-hmm.
The gameplay may be modernized, which it should be, honestly.
Yes.
Realistic World War I game would not be fun. But if the history and the story is authentic, that's what I'm most interested in with a game in World War I. And if they're doing that with the French, I mean, either way, they're screwing over history right here. Not making France an integral part of the base game. Because not everyone gets the DLC. There's going to be people that play this game, just the vanilla version, and never know that the French are involved. Honestly.
But who is the campaign focusing on then?
The campaign, for what it seems, it's kind of bouncing around from nations. So, so the game's multiplayer, which assumedly means that the campaign involves the same people, has the British, the Germans, the Austro-Hungarians, the Italians, the Ottomans, and the Americans.
Hoorah!
Right. Which, again, America played a very important part for a very short time. So it's worth having the Americans in there, but not at the cost of someone that was there at the beginning.
No,
that's what I don't get.
Someone commented that they're following the Harlem Hellfighters, and that they were going to be a big part of the campaign. And
that would be awesome.
That's what someone said because I did a reaction to Battlefield 1 gameplay, and someone said that DICE is going to be doing part of their campaign. I didn't know if it was campaign or DLC, but it's going to be focused on the Harlem Hellfighters and their experience as the all-black
And
troop.
According to these quotes from who are they quoting here? Julian Wera. He works for DICE. They don't say his position or anything. But from this dude's quote, they're focusing on stories that really haven't been told. And that would be awesome if they really did focus on, like you said, the Harlem Hellfighters.
Because that would be an example of something that they're...
Or any other of these, like, kind of small factions. Because you always hear stories about World War II of, like, this village of 20 people held out 300 Nazis to keep their independence. Like, that's awesome. But you don't hear stuff about that about World War I. Right. You don't hear much about World War I at all. Like, even when you learn about it in high school, I mean, you learn the important parts. And I don't think that it's wrong that you learn about World War II more because you can still see in your life today the impacts of World War II, not necessarily World War I. And that's because World War II changed the results of World War I and kind of the legalities that came out of that and that alliances and all that. So I do appreciate that DICE is, at least they're saying, they're kind of telling stories that have been forgotten to history about World War I. I really don't see how they can make up for not including France in the base game and the campaign. That's a really, really almost insulting decision. I mean,
because it's just like they're part of it the whole entire
time. The example
time.
I gave of not including America in the Revolutionary War, like that would be, I don't want to play this game. The Revolutionary War was about America getting independence from Britain.
Right.
And you're not going to include America?
Yeah.
That's insulting. That's ignoring history. I love history, and you got to do it right. You always got to be sensitive to it, and you got to make sure you're doing it authentically. And they're not. They're just not.
I feel you.
So that's, I would love to see how they handle France with this premium matter.
Premium.
But I just don't.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know.
They did that.
I want to play the game. It looks awesome. The gameplay looks cool.
Because I played Battlefield 4 for the first time this week.
This would be my first Battlefield. I think I played Bad Company 2 for about an hour or two.
Yeah.
This would really be my first all-in
Yeah, because last week they had E3 sales going on, and I was like, you know what? Screw it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get Battlefield. It was literally $4.79. I was like, I would literally be cheating myself out if I didn't get a multiplayer with a whole bunch of free DLC right now.
You'd be cheating yourself out if you didn't involve France in a game about World War I.
But yeah, the game is really fun. Battlefield 4 is. I got Hardline. That was garbage. Immediately traded it in. But but I really think that, yeah, Battlefield really has a good formula, and they really know how to make an
It's
intense
different.
multiplayer experience.
The Battlefield gameplay model is distinct.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different from Call of Duty, which has kind of set the standard.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that DICE is in an interesting position, and I've been saying this a lot lately. But DICE is in an interesting position that a Mafia 3 is in, and that Watch Dogs 2 is in, with being able to tell stories and tell perspectives that normally we would never see. In the case of Mafia 3, playing as not only just a black protagonist, which we get ever rarely every year, but also being able to tell a story about what's going on with, drugs, crime, mafias, lifestyle, and things like that, black mafia. But being able to have that translate with war itself, and talking about a war that's usually not talked about, but is considered the Great War when it happened, and it devastated so many lives and had such a big impact on history itself. I think it's important that they really do justice to those who were involved and to the events that transpired.
Now, I agree with you. I think, personally, I would not hold Battlefield 1 to the same expectations as Mafia 3 in terms of taking advantage of talking about sensitive issues, because it is still Battlefield.
And it's just, I feel the same way about Watch Dogs 2. I don't expect Watch Dogs 2 to break the barrier between, like, oh my God, they really went in on Black Lives Matter with that protagonist. No, I don't expect them to go that far. But when you talk about your protagonist having a background that involves gentrification and police brutality, well, yeah, I expect you to talk about it and just be authentic towards it. So, yeah, authenticity, kids.
Put France in the World War I game.
Let's get that hashtag going.
Hashtag put France in games involving World War I. You got 60 characters left.
Nothing else.